So today we will discuss about K-means clustering algorithm. K-means clustering algorithm actually falls in the category of unsupervised learning approach. So in unsupervised learning approach, the training examples are not provided, not associated with any class label. So the algorithm by itself inherently finds some similarity among the objects and groups the object together depending on that similarity or distance. So K-means algorithm is a first or preliminary kind of algorithm. It is called partitioning based algorithm also because it partitions the given set of objects into different clusters depending on certain similarity measures. So let us start this. So as mentioned over here, the input to this algorithm is n and k. So there are two inputs. One is n, that is the number of objects which we want to group together, and second is k, that is the number of groups or clusters we want to actually form, right? So this is one of the preconditions or predefined set of way to indicate the number of clusters we want to form after the process, right? So this is kind of an a priori information which we should have before executing the K-means clustering algorithm, and the name K means comes from this K only, because ultimately after performing the process the given set of objects are divided into K clusters, right? So this is the input which we want as this algorithm. Output is group of n objects distributed amongst these k clusters, right? So a given set of objects will be distributed into k clusters depending on similarity criteria, and the similarity criteria here used by this algorithm is Euclidean distance measure, right? So you must be familiar with Euclidean distance measure, which is used to calculate distance between two objects. So this measure is used in K-means algorithm. So let us try to understand this algorithm with the help of an example. So as it can be seen here, 5 objects are given which are represented in two-dimensional manner. So every object is having two features. So A12, B30, C44, D35 and E23. These are the 5 objects. So n is equal to 5 and k is equal to 2. So k is equal to 2 indicates that we want to group these objects in two different clusters, right? So we want to form two groups out of these 5 objects based on their similarity, and since the similarity criteria is the distance between them, so nearer objects will be part of the same cluster and far objects will be part of two different clusters. Hence this algorithm also tries to preserve the principle of clustering, which says that the objects within the clusters are having the maximum intra-class or intra-cluster similarity and minimum inter-cluster similarity. Okay, means two objects, if I pick up from the same cluster or same group, will have the maximum similarity, and if two objects I pick up from two different clusters, they will have minimum similarity because they are far apart from each other based on the Euclidean distance measure, right? So this is our problem. We want to cluster 5 objects into two groups. Okay, so let us start. So as can be seen from here, first of all we will try to represent these 5 objects into two-dimensional representation on xy axis. Okay, so let's see how they look when we plot them in two-dimensional axis. So we want to find out their spatial location with respect to xy axis, right? So it will look like this. Here we can see that 5 objects A, B, C, D, E are mentioned as per their coordinates. Okay, and these are the coordinates based on that we have plotted them. Okay, so this is just used for visualization purpose or simplification purpose. It is not mandatory while performing K-means algorithm. Okay, but we will be using this to understand it more clearly and to see how actually grouping takes place in two-dimensional form. Next step what we will do will be selecting initial seeds from these 5 groups. Okay, so you can see here that these are our 5 objects A, B, C, D, E, and the number of clusters we want to form is 2. Okay, so as per the principle of the K-means algorithm, first of all we will have to find out, or we will have to assume any two objects randomly, arbitrarily, which will act as the cluster representatives. Okay, so since we want to generate two clusters, ultimately we will randomly pick up any two objects from these 5 objects which will be considered as the cluster representatives. Okay, now the choice, since it is arbitrarily, you can pick up any pair of objects. You can pick up AB or AC or AD. Okay, so there are 5 C2 possibilities in this case. In general there are n CK possibilities in general if there are n objects and k clusters, right? So out of these 5 C2 possibilities, let us pick up one particular pair, and this particular pair is let's say C1 is 1 2, C2 is 2 3. So actually I decided to pick up A 1 2 and E 2 3. Okay, so A and E we have tried to choose which will represent two different clusters. Okay, so we do not know whether it is a good choice or no, because your algorithm will be proceeding based on your choice, right? So a good choice may lead to the answer very quickly, a bad choice may delay the answer. Okay, so convergence may be affected depending on the choice of your seed values. Okay, so let us try to proceed with these choices. So what I did was A12 and E23 were designated as two cluster representatives, two initial seeds in the very first iteration. Okay, and we name them, we label them as C1 and C2. So cluster 1 and cluster 2. So C1 coordinate is 1 2, C2 coordinates are 2 3. Okay, once we do this, we will calculate the distance of each object in our problem with these two cluster representatives. Okay, so I will calculate the distance of A, B, C, D, E, all the objects from C1 and C2 both. Okay, and as we know that K-means algorithm uses the Euclidean distance, so I will calculate the Euclidean distance between each pair of these objects. Okay, so we know that the Euclidean distance of one object with itself is 0. So A to C1 and E to C2 will be 0, while for rest of them you will have to apply the Euclidean distance formula, which will give you the Euclidean distances and as mentioned in this particular table. Okay, so if you do not know how to calculate Euclidean distance between two-dimensional objects, then one sample is provided over here. So if I want to, let's say, find out Euclidean distance between two objects C44 and C112, okay, then it is given by using this formula. So square root of 4 minus 1 square, that is the difference between the x coordinate of both the objects, plus difference between the y coordinate of both the objects, 4 minus 2 and their square, and whole summation will be square root. Okay, so this is the Euclidean distance between C and C1. So you can use the same approach to calculate the Euclidean distance between each pair of objects. So each object distance with C1 and with C2. Okay, so once we are ready with all these distances, what is the next step? The next step is to perform the allocation step. Okay, to perform the allocation step. So what is allocation step? In allocation step we will find out that each object in our problem is nearer to which of the clusters. Okay, since we have two clusters, I will pick up each object one by one and see whether it is nearer to C1 or C2. Okay, so since this is the Euclidean distance, so if distance is less, similarity is more, so the closeness is more, so more nearer that object is. Okay, so we can see that object A is nearer to C1 than C2, object B is also nearer to C1 than C2, object C is nearer to C2, D is nearer to C2, E is nearer to C2. So we can see that objects A and B are nearer to C1 than C2, whereas objects C, D and E are nearer to C2 than C1. Okay, so based on this decision, we will perform the allocation of objects to the clusters. Okay, so we can say that objects A and B are allocated to cluster C1 because they are nearer to this particular point, and objects C, D and E will be allocated to cluster C2 because they are nearer to that. Okay, so after my first iteration, the allocation will be A and B will be part of one cluster, C, D and E will be part of another cluster. Okay, so this decision will give rise to this particular cluster allocation. Okay, so this is our cluster allocation in which objects A and B are part of one cluster, objects C, D and E are part of another cluster, right? So this is our cluster formation, cluster allocation after the first iteration. Okay, so AB is one cluster, CDE belong to another cluster. Okay, now comes the important part. Now in the next step, we are supposed to calculate the centroid of these two clusters. Okay, so what is centroid? Centroid is like the mean of the cluster. Okay, mean, so it is considered as the center of the circle. Okay, so center is a point in the circle from which every point on the periphery of the circle is equidistant, right? So similar analogy can be considered along with the spherical shape clusters like these also, in which we can calculate the centroid of a cluster which actually represents the mean or average value of all the coordinates which are the part of the clusters. Okay, for example, C1 cluster is considering 2 points A and B. Okay, so the centroid of the cluster C1 will be the average of the coordinates of A and B. Okay, same way C2 cluster will have centroid which is the average of the cluster the objects C, D and E. Okay, so this calculation is obtained over here, mentioned over here, because C1 has two objects A12 and B30 as its members. The centroid of the cluster C1 is the average of them. Okay, so average of x coordinate 1 plus 3 by 2, average of y coordinate 2 plus 0 by 2, it will give you 2, 1. Same way C2 is having three objects, so centroid of C2 is the average of these three objects. Okay, which will give you the coordinates 3, 4. So once we obtain the actual centroids of clusters C1 and C2, then what to do? Then we will repeat the procedure which we did earlier in the first iteration, was to calculate the distance of each object in our problem with C1 and C2, that is centroid of C1 and C2. Okay, so that procedure is mentioned over here. So C1 now 2, 1, C2 is 3, 4. Okay, so you can see that the coordinates representing both the clusters are changed now. In the previous iteration, C1 and C2 coordinates were nothing but they were directly the coordinates of A and E, because in the very initial step we designated those two objects as the cluster representatives, but after one iteration we have found some allocation of the clusters, and based on that we have calculated the distance, we have calculated the centroid, and then these are the actual centroids of both the clusters. Okay, so C1 2, 1, C2 3, 4. Now we will repeat the same procedure of calculating the distance of all the objects from this cluster centroid points, right? So actually we want to find out that from these centroid points each object is how far. Okay, because it is possible sometimes that one point, like for example E, may be nearer to the centroid of C1 cluster than the centroid of C2 cluster to which it is belonging currently. So sometimes it is possible that there can be relocation, or there may be a movement of some point from one cluster to another cluster in the next iteration, right? So depending on this behavior, this algorithm is also known as iterative relocation method. Okay, why iterative relocation? Because in the next iteration it is possible, quite likely, that one object may relocate from one cluster to another cluster. Okay, sometimes if the cluster is very big, and there are 2 points which are far from each other, and it is likely that one object is very far from the centroid of that cluster and it is nearer to the centroid of some other cluster, so it will be relocated. Okay, so let us see whether this relocation also takes place in our case or no. Okay, if that takes place, then we will have to once again perform the relocation of the objects into clusters, and then we will have to update the centroids of the two clusters, and then we will have to repeat this calculation once again. Okay, so after calculating the Euclidean distance of both these centroid points with all the objects, these are the values. Okay, and then we pick up each object one by one and we will see that it belongs to which cluster depending on the nearness or closeness. So we can see that A is nearer to C1, B is nearer to C1, C is nearer to C2, D is nearer to C2, and E is nearer to C2. Okay, so ultimately what we observe is, after this calculation, after this iteration, objects A and B belong to one cluster and C, D, E belong to another cluster. What does that mean? There is no change in the allocation which we did in the previous iteration. Okay, it means that the cluster iteration is freezed. Okay, or cluster allocation is freezed, means the clusters are stable now. Okay, by means what I want to say is there is no any relocation required of one object from one cluster to another cluster. Okay, so the clusters are said to be freezed or they are stable now. This indicates the end of K-means clustering algorithm, right? So we can say that since the clusters are stable, now we do not need to carry forward this process anymore, and this is the final allocation. This is our final set of clusters. So objects A and B will go together in one cluster, objects C, D and E will be together in the another cluster. Okay, so that is the end of K-means algorithm. So here we are fortunate to have the stable clusters at the very second iteration. Okay, sometimes if your choice of initial seeds is bad, then it is possible that you will have to take certain number of iterations to reach up to the stable clusters. Okay, so the K-means algorithm is sensitive to the choice of initial seeds. Ideally we should pick up those objects as initial seeds which are far from each other. Okay, because if you choose two objects which are nearer to each other, then possibly they will end up in the same cluster after some iteration. So it is not a wise decision. So ideally you should choose the initial seeds such that they are far from each other to avoid unnecessary iterations. Okay, so this is about K-means algorithm. K-means is sensitive to the choice of initial seed selection. Okay, another thing is K-means is having a limitation that you need to provide the number of clusters, that is K, in input. Okay, so you should know a priori that how many clusters are to be formed. Okay, sometimes we have not that much knowledge, we do not know the underlying data, and we can't predict in advance that how many clusters are actually required to represent this data set. So in that case we may not be able to properly provide the value of K. Okay, so choosing a good value of K is also a difficult task sometimes, right? So again there are some methods to choose a good value, an ideal value of K, like elbow method, Selhut method. Okay, so you can use those methods to determine a good value of K to represent a set of clusters for your data. But K-means is having this limitation also, that if you do not know the number of clusters to be formed, then sometimes it is not giving you desired results, right? So I hope you understood. Okay, thank you.